AEW and DC Comics just announced a crossover for 2026. On the surface, it sounds cool, but when you actually look at how the deal's structured, who's involved, and where it's being promoted, this is one of the most important branding moments for AEW has had since its launch. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the T Drop, the only wrestling breakdown show where we just don't call out the spots, we call out the business, and with no soft behavior. Today we're breaking down and talking a little bit about the DC Comics and AEW collaboration, the comics, the creative team, the roster choices, and what this partnership signals about AEW's future beyond the ring, because this move reaches further than people realize. DC Comics and AEW are launching a 2-issue comic book event in 2026. The first one being obviously it's going to be, for now, as far as we know, called DC X AEW. And the first issue will be released on February 4th of 2026, followed by issue number 2 on March 11th. Each issue, according to them, is part of a connected 48-page story written by Steve Orlando and illustrated by Travis Mercer. The project debuted with an exclusive preview at this year's New York Comic Con, which already tells you how seriously DC is positioning this. That placement matters the way you see it. AEW operates on long storytelling, at least that's what they say. Characters evolve, alignments shift, feuds stretch across years instead of weeks. That approach, obviously, when it comes to wrestling, mirrors how comic books universes function. DC isn't adapting wrestlings to comics here. They're recognizing a structure that already aligns with serialized storytelling. That's why this partnership feels pretty natural. Now, the plot is going to revolve around this big galactic belt, a championship powerful enough to destabilize the universe. That choice is pretty deliberate if you think about it. In wrestling, obviously, championships define hierarchy. In comics, artifacts define conflicts. DC combined both ideas into one central object, placing AEW talent directly into the stakes of the universe rather than on the sidelines. And the roster is going to be pretty good. Let me go back to that image. The AEW roster is going to feature in these stories. They're going to apparently tell their own story. We will have Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, Will Ospreay, Darby Allin, Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, Toni Storm, Mercedes Moné, Orange Cassidy, and Willow Nightingale. These selections emphasize their character presence, visual identity, and story adaptability. If you think about it, yes, they're very comic-like stories. DC chose wrestlers whose personas translate naturally into these pages. Now, the creative team for these comics, the crossover doesn't work unless these people are behind it. Scale, assemble, storytelling, and long-term continuity. And that's where the creative team quietly becomes the most important part of this announcement. Let's start with the head writer. Steve Orlando will be the head writer for this series. At DC, he wrote Supergirl from 2016 to 2020, where he rebuilt Kara Zor-El as a character driven by identity, morality, and leadership, not just her power levels. He also handled the Justice League of America comic from 2017 to 2018, which obviously, as you know, when it comes to those, you got to juggle multiple heroes, conflicting motivations, and political consequences across these stories. The skill set matters when you're writing a book where Batman, Wonder Woman, and Kenny Omega all need to feel important without stepping on each other. Most recently, though, Orlando has been deep in Marvel serialized digital space, writing X-Men Unlimited Infinity comics from 2021-2024, 2024, and the Astonishing Avengers Infinity Comics in 2025. Projects that demanded weekly continuity, cliffhangers, and character-driven momentums. That experience translates perfectly to the chaotic story that they're probably going to do for this AEW crossover. As you know, AEW is always going to live in momentum and just wrestling in general. Orlando knows how to write stories based on this resume, so we'll see how it goes. Now, Travis Mercer is going to be the lead artist on this, and he's worked on Batman the Brave and the Bold in 2023 and 2024, a title known for its rotating tones, action-heavy layouts, and character-focused visuals. He's also been a regular contributor to the Batman Superman World's Finest comics, which is one of DC's most consistent praised modern books for dynamic pacing and expressive action. Mercer's styles emphasize physical motion, clear facial storytelling, action that feels impactful, and not that cluttered. So that's crucial when you're dealing with multiple characters and crossovers, and hopefully he's able to translate the wrestlers into comic characters faithfully. And then we have the editor-in-chief, which is Marie Javins, who's a very old school involver in the DC Comics. She's overseeing basically the whole project. She's been deeply involved in DC's editorial direction for years, with credits including The Flash 2016 to 2023, ongoing oversight in the Detective Comics series, including Batman and Nightwing. And her past work also landed on landmark titles such as All-Star Superman and The Amazing Spider-Man. So she has a lot of experience and a lot of level of editorial control, which shows that DC is trying to very respectfully treat this project well. So it'll tell you that DC sees AEW as a partner worth guarding, not just licensing. So why does this team matter? This isn't just a quick money-grabbing celebrity comic. This is DC trying to do a proper DC event book built by people who specialize in long-form storytelling and ensemble cast, action with emotional stakes. That combination with what I can agree with, that AEW has a great talent room, can become something amazing. And that's going to be hopefully, if they do it right, this series will not be forgotten, and it will leave a mark in not only in DC Comics but AEW when it goes across medias. So right now, their partnership obviously extends beyond the comics. DC will be promoted across AEW programming on both TBS and TNT, which is obviously meant to happen given that they're owned by Warner. AEW wrestlers, I guess, will also appear potentially in variant comics. That's to be decided. And they did promote for DC Comics during AEW Full Gear a few weeks ago. So little by little, they are coordinating their branding strategy on all their collaborations to eventually help this comic book release. So why would it be helpful long term? Well, the partnership expands how wrestling talent, as always, can exist across platforms. It reinforces AEW's identity as a promotion built on characters and continuity, or at least that's what they tell us, and it introduces AEW to audiences who engage with storytelling primarily through comics and pop culture media. The crossover potentially can create opportunities for some beyond the ring. I mean, a great example is Phil Brooks, because he's been involved in comic books in the past and also in other media like movies. More recently, he did a voiceover with Roman Reigns in Zootopia 2 as the Zebra Bros or something. But anyway, AEW has always emphasized, or at least tries to achieve, story over spectacle alone. DC Comics recognizes that structure and is going to lean on it for this series. And hopefully we will get a result that is a collaboration between both brands with opening new creative options. So we will have to see. And the question comes to mind, will you be purchasing it? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and as always, no soft behavior.